all have our different thoughts on the 4th of July and whether and how to celebrate the adoption of the Declaration of Independence, which, let's just face it, was not the triumph for most people in the 16 American colonies that it was for the slave-owning founders. We can just stipulate to that. Still, whether you view the day as a fireworks-filled celebration or just a much-needed day off, each of us marks the day in our own way. But this year, some in the Republican Party made some, let's just call them, interesting choices. The party itself took to Twitter to honor the day, but seemed to show their true patriotic spirit for Liberia. You see the difference there, Republicans? The U.S. flag has 13 stripes and 50 stars, whereas the Liberian flag that you use has 11 stripes and 1 star. Do you see the difference? And I'd be happy to explain why the flags are so similar, but I know how much you hate all the scary slavery-related history stuff, so, I just won't bother. Meanwhile, as is customary, many of the Republican presidential candidates participated in local parades in early voting states like Iowa and New Hampshire. However, the leading Republican candidate was not out among the voters, but was instead squirreled away at his New Jersey golf club, repeatedly posting on his failing social media platform like a lonely divorcee who moved back into his mother's basement. Donald Trump's July 4th celebration, including posting an image with his head superimposed on George Washington's body, as well as one that included the words F Biden. And he didn't use F, which he posted at 2:24 in the morning. I mean, does Melania, hang out with him at all? Anyway, he also continued his attacks on the DOJ and special counsel Jack Smith over their various investigations into his alleged crimes. That continued today, I should say, with Trump calling on people to take to the streets. And in an even more deranged post, Trump made completely unhinged claims against the Biden family regarding a truly bizarre occurrence, a small bag of cocaine found in the White House. Yes, we live in that timeline, about which he went after Hunter Biden, of course, and referred to Jack Smith as a crackhead, which I promise you he is not. And no, I'm not making this up. Joining me now to make this all kind of make sense, I guess, is Maria Teresa Kumar, President and CEO of Voto Latino, and April Ryan, White House correspondent for The Grio. Both are MSNBC contributors. And you win the short straw, April Ryan, since you used to be a White House correspondent, of explaining.
Used to be, I still am.
Oh, still correspondent for The Grio. You're right. As long time. I mean, OG White House correspondent.
26
and have written multiple books.
Still counting, yes.
And still counting, and have covered many, many presidents. Please to explain to me the former president. I mean, this guy was the president of the whole United States. But his lack of just basic dignity and decorum, have you, having covered many presidents, experienced anything like that before from any of the others?
Joy, this president, former president, who many believe could be president again, and that's real. You cannot explain the thought process of that president, former president. Think about what he tweeted, Covfefe. We would hear rantings within the White House about different little things that didn't make sense. Joy, but there is a segment of society that loves this. They love the fact that he goes against what people perceive as the other. Can you say Jack Smith? Can you say anybody else, right?
Wait, can I say April Ryan? Can I just play? Can we say April Ryan? Let's play it. Let's play the tape. Roll the tape.
Oh, boy.
Go ahead, take the. Well, I'll give you voters. I will give you voter suppression. You just have to sit down, please. Sit down. I didn't call you. I'm not responding. I'm responding to. Excuse me. I'm not responding to you. I'm talking to this gentleman. Will you please sit down? Excuse me, would you please sit down? Please, go ahead. Very hostile. It's such a hostile media. It's so sad. You asked me about, no, you rudely interrupted him.
Same thing with April Ryan. I watch her get up. I mean, you talk about somebody that's a loser. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing. She's very nasty, and she shouldn't be.
I mean, April, those performances.
I can laugh now. I can laugh.
I know
now.
you were not
Go ahead.
laughing then, but I mean, the reality is abusing a black woman professional journalist is part of why people like him. It's racist, it's misogynist, it's his brand, but it is not a dignified performance by a president of the United States.
You know, let me say this in a very highbrow, I guess you will say, way. When they go low, you go high kind of way, according to Michelle Obama, who he's also talked about as well, the former First Lady of the United States. That president has a problem, had a problem yesterday and today with anyone who asks him something either he doesn't know or he doesn't want to confront, okay? At that time, let me take you back to that press conference. It was literally after the midterm election, and there was concern about voter suppression. And I was like 2 to 3 rows back, and it was off mic. I said, "Sir, what about voter suppression?" And he said, "I'll give you voter suppression." He responded to me. And when a president responds to you out of respect for the office, you stand and give him that respect. But yet, as a 50-some-year-old woman, he told me to sit down, a mother, upstanding person in the community. And then the next day, they had pulled Jim Acosta's press pass, and I was the next one they wanted to. But I'm still here. 5 presidents and still can't.
And MTA, the thing about it is that the question for the Biden team, I guess at this point, is how do you respond to that in a country that is easily bored and is easily entertained by somebody like that?
I think one of the things that we don't laugh at these issues, when he was going after April Ryan, when he was going after Jim Acosta, he was going after the Fourth Estate. He was trying to make fun of and intimidate journalists so that they were not in positions to ask the hard questions. He didn't want transparency. And what he showed us yesterday on July 4th was his lack of patriotism, his lack of ability to bring people together. And there should be no voter in America that forgets who he really is. He is a divider who peddles and lies in division because he doesn't want us to be smart about what he is about. And what he is about is just himself. He's not about democracy. He's not about that he's not about policy. And I would just end with this, when he has this superimposed face of himself on George Washington, for every person who served in the military, they should take umbrage with that, because this is a man who dodged military service over bone spurs because he didn't want to actually fight for the country that so many have sacrificed for. And yesterday was a day of patriotism, and he forgot that most Americans were weary of him. And so good for him to remind us who he is as we enter 2020.
And I wish we had more time, but I'm gonna bring you back. Hold that thought. You're gonna have to text me that thought later because we are out of time. But I'm gonna bring you both back later. We're gonna reassemble this dynamic duo for more segments. We're out of time right now. Maria Teresa Kumar, April Ryan, thank you.